Well, let's now speak to Dr. Alan Mendoza, who's the Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, Adam.
What do you make of what's going on in France?
Well, it's firstly, it's a failed, of course, gamble by Mr. Macron in the sense that if his ambition had been to get a majority, that's clearly gone out. And it is, of course, interesting to note how the French system works. You can have a second round very different to the first round, and presumably what Macron was hoping was that in that second round, his party would do well enough in the first round that they would get a majority because the alternative would be the National Rally. But it didn't quite work out that way. So he's been left, of course, without essentially a government to govern. And you've now got three factions, two of which are from at least partly from the extremes. You've got obviously the National Rally side, but then you were speaking quite rightly about Mélenchon and his part to play on the left-wing Popular Front. So you've got two at the extremes, one in the middle. None of them are strong enough to govern on their own. None of them will ally with the others. So essentially, France is going to be stalemated, and that is not a good situation.
Couldn't you say, in his defence, in the president's defence, that he took the decision after the European Parliament elections to, as it were, call the bluff of the French electorate and to say, do you really want Marine Le Pen and her party? And he's been successful in that because the majority have clearly made it absolutely cast iron that they don't.
If that was his goal, then the answer is yes. But the cost of that has been his ability to govern going forwards. He will not be able to get any legislation through the National Assembly. So for the final 3 years of his administration, assuming, of course, he doesn't call another election next year, he can't call an election for a year, but he might do so next year, it's going to be a stalemated situation. Doesn't that not play directly into helping Mrs. Le Pen at the time of the next election, because she will say, look, they blocked me, they purposely blocked me, they've achieved nothing, France has gone into worse problems since, your only hope now is to vote me through in the first round, and that could backfire, couldn't it?
At the same time, we've just been hearing, the French markets are pretty calm about this. They're not too upset. What they were frightened of was a national rally-led government.
Yes, I mean, they've been very happy in general with Macron's leadership and his party's leadership. And I think one of the interesting parts, speaking to French colleagues and speaking to, sort of French commentators I know, has been that the general consensus is that Macron's been very good, if you like, for the markets and for big business, not so good for, the little man, as it were, and people who've been left behind. And that's perhaps reflected in both the political extremes getting quite a strong vote here. So the markets are happy, sure, but will they be happy in 3 years' time if it leads to a landslide for Le Pen? I don't think so.
And then the other thing, of course, is that the current Prime Minister, Attal, appears to have emerged from this quite well, and that may make him a credible opponent for Marine Le Pen in 2027.
Yes, because of course Macron can't stand again. He needs an alternative, and his party will need to put someone else forward. And Attal, as you say, has not done badly out of this crisis. He's seemingly going to continue on as a caretaker prime minister, as it were. And if he can somehow extend that and through political skill can maintain his position, he might well be seen as a very attractive force come that time. But it will be difficult, I think, for Macron's party to win as it were, a third term, because it would be very associated with the current one. They'll have to hope that this sort of cordon sanitaire preventing National Rally from coming through will continue into that election. I just wonder if time goes on and France's problems, the problems that led people to vote for National Rally and for the far left in the first place, if they do go on, will the French people continue to accept it? I don't know.